In this series, we are discussing the top do's and don'ts of each Enneagram type. Next on our list are fives. Fives are motivated by understanding, by exploring new ideas, and by observing. They like thinking, reflecting, getting lost in their thoughts, and generally being left alone. How can I get out of today's faculty meeting? Fives come across as analytical, aloof, impersonal, and sometimes insensitive. How can I get out of my birthday party? More so than perhaps any Enneagram type, fives live in their heads. In fact, their heads provide a rich ecosystem bursting with waterfalls of ideas, thickets of observations, and winding trails of thoughts. The truth is that fives never really get bored in their heads, but they can easily get bored with people. In this way, they have a tendency to offend others by preferring their own thought world over another's emotional comfort. Selfish. To be blunt, if a five doesn't find you intellectually stimulating, she may completely ignore you or simply walk away without showing the least amount of embarrassment. I'm smarter than you. Fives can spend hours of their day all alone, just thinking, learning, or simply reading. Just a minute. Just one more minute. Just one more minute. When it comes to working with fives, here is a definite do. Do give them space to work. And when I say space here, I'm referring to physical space, emotional space, and intellectual space. Fives work best when secluded, when not having to exert too much emotional energy with other people, particularly emotionally charged extroverts. When working with a five, here is a don't. Don't invade their privacy. Fives can get pretty territorial when it comes to their space. Heck, you'd think it's the holy of holies by the way they treat it. In nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. A five's private space is like their inner sanctum. It could be a laboratory for a five who's a chemist, a garage for a five who likes to tinker with cars, or an office for a five who's a professor. And if they don't have a physical space, they'll simply create a mental space to retreat to back into their own intellectual shell. How can I get out of my retirement party? If you want to engage a five at the workplace, they tend to do better with scheduled meetings, although, to be honest, they don't like meetings in the first place. However, the worst thing that you can do is simply interrupt them. To you, it may seem like they're just looking at a computer screen, so why not go ahead and ask them a question? But from their perspective, they are performing the equivalent of mental surgery. And so would you want to interrupt a surgeon operating on a patient just to ask how his day is going? To summarize, here are the top do's and don'ts of the Enneagram 5. Do give them space to work. Don't invade their privacy. Both of these get to the core of a 5, wanting to observe and reflect and wanting to be left alone to do so. If you enjoyed this video on the do's and don'ts of the Enneagram 5, please be sure to subscribe and watch out for the next video in the series. I'll see you then.